what we have here, we have chosen a set of parameter values. And of course, they have been arbitrarily chosen here because we're not having the context of a certain experiment. Now, in the materials, I think in the second part of this modeling, building model session, there's some suggestions of how to get these parameters. Some parameters are actually found in databases. Some parameters have been measured before explicitly, and you can find them in research papers. The major thing is if you set up a larger model of a system that interests you, you typically will not find the parameters. Definitely, you will not find them under the conditions that you are interested in. Almost all of the parameters, the vast majority of parameters in the literature have been studied under in vitro situations, means in vitro kinetics or some artificial setup with a certain pH value, with a certain temperature, which is sometimes room temperature, not body temperature. And so these parameter values will not be, you will not be able to take them over directly and put them into your model as they are. So what can you do? You have to guess and estimate. What you can often get from the literature is good bounds for the parameters. Values like Km values, values like Hill coefficients, values like maximum rates for enzyme kinetics, association constants, dissociation constants, can often be found to be within certain ranges. Not arbitrarily big, not arbitrarily small. So you might try to find a value from within that range, set an arbitrary value within that range, and as such fill up your model with some good initial guesses. Second thing is you then adjust those parameters to some output that makes sense, for example, in the case that we had now in terms of the time course. You can see that we have a certain time course. If we look at the temporal axis here, we have time units 0, 2, 4, 6, and we can see that our transient behavior is finished by after about 5 time units. So if this is not what we find in our experiment, you can then use changes in the parameters to adjust it such that the time course in the experiment is reproduced more correctly. And finally, of course, you will have to try to make guesses for experiments that help you determine whether you are in a good parameter regime. So what we are then doing with these sets of parameters, we are doing not one simulation as we did here for an example, but we're doing ensemble simulations. We're doing a large number of simulations with parameters taken different values. And we store all the results and we look what robust model outputs do we get for ranges of parameters. This goes into further topics like that of stability analysis, into sensitivity with respect to change in certain parameters. And this is this advanced feature, which we don't study here, which only then gives you some more confidence that you have found parameters that are actually reasonable output for your model behavior. What we have not discussed here is that the same model under different parameter sets can also give you qualitatively different outputs. For example, you can find parameters in this simplified Goodwin model that don't overshoot. Or you can find output with some more additions to the model that oscillate, or some other behaviors. These things, of course, you only get from further investigation of the model with means that are beyond what we have learned so far, but which are subject of topics in Seismic Module 2, where we go into explicit modeling techniques. So with this outlook remark, I'd like to conclude our session for today. Let me just very briefly bring myself back. Let me stop sharing the screen. I hope you have found something useful. I should mention that while Rob was doing the simulation, I noticed that the model was not uploaded to the materials. I have in the meantime also uploaded the model, the simplified Goodwin model, to the materials. You should find them in your control panel under materials. So I will leave that open for a couple more minutes, maybe for the next 15 minutes also, for those who also want to download that model and not have to type it again. Right. Thank you for attending today. We have now basically completed the first cycle apart from the statistics module. So we're going to see how we can give some support in terms of statistics as well. But in terms of mathematical functions, of vectors and matrices, of networks, and of ordinary differential equation models, we have completed a certain subset of this module. And I hope you are okay with your assignments. Please use the forum intensively if you have trouble getting the output, and let us know if there's anything else that you might need. In the worst case, there will be no response, but in the best case, of course, we'll try to adjust and put in things that you find useful for further perusal. Thanks for joining. Thank you, Rob, have you on the screen, for being here and attending our question. Was there anything that I need to address? Any serious problem?
Nothing major.
Okay, so time runs out. Wish you all a good night or a good day, depending on which part of the earth you are in. And maybe see you next time.
So